Ora então, bem-vindo a todos e todas a mais uma edição do Coffee Break Digital, uma edição muito especial. Comigo hoje tenho o diretor da GLOBALHealthPR, Andrew Bailey. Hello Andrew, very nice. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be here.
Hello, good morning, bom dia para todos. Obrigado pela oportunidade.
He speaks Portuguese fluently, you know.
Just a little bit.
Thank you so much. Andrew is director of Global Health PR. As I say, Global Health PR is an international network of independent agencies very related as ourselves to the healthcare and communications area. We have partners from all over the world. Andrew, if you'd like to speak a little about Global Health PR, that would be great. What is Global Health PR and what is the key difference for the other networks?
Absolutely, thanks, George. So Global Health PR has been in existence now for almost 20 years. It was established in 2001, and it today is the largest independent partnership of health-focused communications agencies worldwide. Over the years, we have grown not only in our reach, in our total number of countries, but also in our depth and interconnectivity and the ways in which we operate and the opportunities that we have to share collaboratively, not only client service and client business and projects, but also learnings and best practices to learn from the greatest minds, kind of be a uniter of the greatest practitioners of healthcare communications worldwide. So from a reach and total numbers perspective today, Global Health PR has 20 partner agencies. And through our network, we are able to reach into more than 60 countries. We have a presence in more than 60 total. And this is with really deep healthcare expertise from those market-leading agencies in each country.
We were talking about we have been talking, we have, for the ones that don't know, we have a monthly call, and COVID has been one of the main topics in the last couple of months in our monthly call. We also have a regional European call, also with COVID in the main. In regards to this situation, this pandemic situation that we are currently living, what is your experience in regards of communication trends that you feel emerge from this situation and can impact our business as PR practitioners?
Absolutely, it's a great question, George, and I think it's almost a situation where we have to look at which areas. It's probably easier to talk about which areas have not been impacted than the areas that have been impacted by our work and by the industry. First looking at from a platform and technology perspective, of course, Zoom, the platform that we're on right now, has seen a massive uptick in its use and how much we use it. Other collaborative platforms we have been using, including Microsoft Teams and other real-time systems, and getting a chance to really see and really use these technologies to replace those meetings that we would have had in person, of course. And I think as strategists and communicators, we also have needed to re-evaluate all of our programs and the tactics that we're recommending as well. Looking at evolving from medical congresses where massive amounts of money are spent on flying, plane tickets and hotel reservations, reserving hotel room blocks where we're on the phone for 3 hours a day trying to reserve hotel rooms for our clients. A lot of those things have gone away and probably are not going to return anytime soon. So there are efficiencies that that we've been faced, this pandemic that we've been faced with has enabled new efficiencies, more connectivity and thinking outside of the box for our clients, recommending new formats and new ways, and also ways to when now we've been using these tools for several months, almost exclusively, we now need to think one step further about how we can avoid some of the fatigue from these existing formats like Zoom even. And also from oh, sorry, go ahead.
Do you, in the States with your team, do you also feel there's a certain fatigue right now after, almost 4 months or people are getting...
Not so much. We like the routine of connecting face-to-face over the video conference. We try to keep it very entertaining and fun, as I'm sure the Guess What team does as well, whether that be virtual happy hours, but not just getting on the phone with a drink in your hand, but getting on the computer, but really having these fun activities planned. Last week, we had a scavenger hunt where everybody has to run, and the leader had everybody run and grab a different object from their house. So like, grab a plant from your house and tell us about the plant, or grab a photo, grab your favorite photo and run back. And the first 3 people that return to the screen with the photo get to tell the story of their favorite photo, and then we'll all vote on the funnest story. So, these types of activities, lots of trivia. I led a global beer trivia over Zoom recently, which was fun. And also just the moments to connect on a one-to-one level. From a wellness and well-being standpoint, our leadership and human resources team has been checking in with everybody to see how we're doing, recommending different apps and tools, and the company has been investing time as well about how we can improve our own kind of positivity and well-being during these challenging times as well.
And for you, it has been a challenge also because of the dimension of the country. Surely, because you have offices, I had the pleasure to go to the offices in New York City, which was beautiful, I think 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And but you also have in Washington and California also, or how is to manage all these different
yes, it's a great question. So Global Health PR's founder and chair agency is Spectrum Science Communications, based here in the US. And we have 4 offices in New York, Washington, DC, Atlanta, and Chicago. And a total number of over 100 staff, about 120 team members. And of those, about 20 or 30 of them already are remote workers in different parts of the country. But during the pandemic, what that means, especially from the office standpoint, is we have 4 different states that are governed by 4 different health authorities and sets of regulations. In addition to your point, George, we're facing very different situations with regard to the severity of the pandemic in each state. In particular, the southern United States has been hit very hard. And so for that reason, we're all very content for the time being to continue to stay safe here, working from home, and watching very closely as the health situation evolves. But it is a bit of a challenge because based on our nature and our country's governance structure, we have a very strong local and state level decision-making that takes place. Therefore, it's more challenging even to manage from one set of guidelines at the national level down. We have to manage and navigate 4 different unique environments. And in some cases, in the example of Georgia, where Atlanta's office is, we have a mayor who is engaged in a legal battle with the state governor of Georgia over regulations and mask and preventive protective measures, where the mayor is in favor of more strict measures to keep everybody safe, but the governor, who is of the opposite political party, the governor of Georgia being a Republican, is trying to invalidate some of the decisions that Atlanta's mayor has made at the city level. So a lot of nuances to navigate from an office reopening perspective here in the U.S. currently.
Do you feel that, I was listening to you, do you feel that this situation that occurs, I don't know, once in a lifetime, this disruptive situation, this pandemic situation, instead of being managed as a health situation, is being sometimes managed as a political situation, or because of all these different latitudes that you have here in the States, or how do you feel that, how you see that management of this public health?
Yeah. Absolutely, without question. The situation currently in the U.S. is being very much managed from more of a political perspective than unfortunately, than a public health perspective. And I think where this raises different challenges and really becomes reality for a lot of people is, when you do see those spikes and increases of cases, the family is affected. The virus is not political. The virus does not vote Democratic or Republican.
Yeah.
And the virus does not stop for border walls. So these types of political arguments or political solutions to a health problem, it's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. They don't fit together. And what you have as a consequence is what you're seeing in the United States right now, unfortunately. Yeah. But this is a continuation, George, of to be rather blunt, an assault on science that began a few years ago. There's a lot of doubts around climate change science, other types of science, not only personal and public health. Yeah. And we're seeing this is just another manifestation of an approach that we began to see with other things, like when the United States withdrew from the Paris climate agreements, from a climate change perspective, where you see a lot of political interference in science questions. And that's unfortunately a continuation, and what we're seeing now is kind of reflecting some of those earlier trends that started happening from before COVID. Yeah.
Do you feel that we are walking to the, a very bad perfect storm when everything collides and people are going to we are seeing a lot of numbers.
I've always been an optimist and tried to stay positive and see the glass as half full. So I think we're in a tough situation right now, as are many other countries. I think we're starting to learn, and I think the people are starting to open their minds to the fact that this is more of a health issue than it is a political issue. Just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, we saw Donald Trump issue a tweet for the first time with a photo of himself wearing a mask, saying that it was a good thing to do to wear a mask. So, what we see is that our governments and leaders have kind of connecting this back to PR and communications, is they have a very great degree of influence over the actions of everyday people. Mm-hmm. If Donald Trump says something, many people think it's okay for them to say the same thing or to do the same thing. So hopefully this is the beginning of seeing this as more of a non-political issue. And hopefully for the next 3 or 4 months, we'll all be able to work a little bit more together than we have been in this fragmented kind of leadership scenario that we've had.
And in regards to the work that you all have been doing, how do you feel that the pharma companies have been adapting, our clients have been adapting to the current situation? Because this is there's a lot of pressure right now, not only for the companies that are trying to develop treatments and vaccines for COVID, but also for the other, because life continues and we'll still continue to have cancer, heart stroke diseases, neurological diseases, and how do you feel, how do you see the adaptation of our clients in regards to the situation?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. I think the word that comes to mind when I think about our industries that we serve, pharma, whether that be pharma, medical device, diagnostics, even to the startups, biotech, small startups, the word resilience comes to mind. I think we're just seeing how resilient our industry is, that the healthcare industry in general, which as a, it's a fact that the healthcare industry has not had a very good reputation, and pharma in particular, the pharmaceutical industry, for about 5 years now has had a really kind of a negative perception in the eyes of the American public, at least, and probably elsewhere in the world. But I think that this type of pulling resources together, quickly reacting to an unprecedented crisis, has really hopefully shifted that thinking a little bit in our broader audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the industry has done an incredible job of putting aside all their things and working together on science, working together to pool resources, sharing their intellectual property, even their shared databases and initiatives where companies can share the technology behind some of their molecules to see what might work, to share with institutions. So we're seeing a lot of collaboration. We're seeing many in the biotech and smaller space have also really been effective at continuing to advance their programs, from early development of small earlier stage candidates, where you have biotech companies that can shift resources where, for example, they might have had a research partner in China that emerged from the lockdown earlier, so they can shift some of their focus back to China now that China has reopened, and can kind of navigate around some of the lockdowns. Pharma, certainly, we need to continue to partner with those, those clients and companies where there are a lot of challenges in convincing people that, to your point, that they still need to ensure they're taking care of themselves and that they're getting the proper care, whether that be MS, for example, or cancer. Cancer doesn't stop for COVID either. So things like screenings, it's more important now in this time where we've almost gone over the first wave, maybe not here, but in Europe, certainly. One of those challenges is going to be working to ensure other disease areas are not neglected as the months go on, and that that those health challenges are still being addressed, definitely. But overall, I think the industry has really come together, and we've seen how it just even on the timelines of the vaccine development and the different vaccine candidates, it's been just really remarkable what people can do when they're really focused on a mission and oriented on getting a health solution rapidly. So it's really a time of great innovation, and I hope a change of perspectives, and a little bit of an improvement in the reputation of the industry as we, fingers crossed, emerge from this challenge.
And do you also have, for us here in Europe, sometimes one of the big obstacles in regards to a good health and communication process, it has been the resurgence of fake news websites, fake news that come from different sites that we really don't know how they come from. Do you also have it? This is of course this is a problem all around the world.
Absolutely,
it's a challenge for you guys also in the States. It's getting better. How do you manage? Because it must be difficult.
Definitely. It's absolutely the same here in the United States. I think we've seen some of the social media platforms themselves start to take more of an enforcement approach to removing some of those types of stories. However, I still face it personally as well with, family members who send me, private messages that have a different perspective or maybe are not from a reputable source. And, I think the lesson that I've learned is that, one-on-one conversations are still really important at an individual level to really have empathy, but to be proactive and to talk to that person who you might have seen sharing that news, that, hey, as much as I love you, this, I really wanted to let you know that this is a little bit dangerous if you share this kind of thing, and here are the reasons why.
Yeah.
And, what I've found is that people generally might not be aware that they're missing the mark with regard to sometimes these types of posts. They're sharing the news that they're exposed to on a regular basis. But it's definitely an issue, a large issue here in the U.S. And one that hopefully through more one-on-one kind of conversations, we can start to chip away little by little at some of the impact and influence that these false news stories and channels might have.
And in regards to the channels and communication channels for the pharmaceutical industry, which ones did they adopted more in the last couple of months because they couldn't go to, as you said before, with congresses and major events are getting shut down. The contact with physicians also on an hospital level probably very, very strict. How are they managing their interaction with their target audience in their webinars? Which type of instruments are you guys using?
Yeah, I think we're seeing somewhat of a mix. I think webinars are definitely one of has been kind of a central focal point. However, we're also looking at ways getting outside of the box, beyond just webinars, from a physician standpoint, specific social networks that are exclusive to physicians, like whether that be Doximity or Sermo and some of those other, I believe Figure One is another, if I'm not mistaken, that we've been looking at. And so there are some channels that are more specific to providers that we've been looking at. Also, just taking a fresh look at existing platforms like LinkedIn, and taking advantage of the new solutions some of the solutions that they have. And many channels have adapted to COVID with more video conferencing-like features. Facebook has a watch party where you can do, in addition to Facebook Live, you can watch event together with friends and things like that. That could be interesting. I've not personally implemented anything like that with, for example, a patient association, but it could be an interesting idea to look into these new features on platforms that are familiar to us, like Facebook. As well as, of course, the Zooms, and we've gotten better at some of the more mass broadcasting kind of uses of Zoom.
Yeah.
I remember Zoom bombing was a thing earlier in the year where, but luckily everybody is kind of using it in a more safe and secure way. So I think it's about ultimately reaching those audiences where they're already at, where they already are, and where they're already familiar, I think. Because amid all of the other pressures and the challenges of working from home and balancing family life, probably the last thing anybody wants to do nowadays is to take half day to have to learn a brand new technology platform just for a certain event. So we want to try to keep that balance of something fresh but also familiar, and leverage our audiences where we can, whenever it's possible, or where they already are.
Yeah.
When
And what we're just finishing up to 25 minutes. What positive message would you like to share with our target audience? We already know the one that everything is going to be all right. Not so much for the ones that are healed, but do you think that we are going to be so much different in next time this year, or we haven't learned much and it's going to be the same but more controlled?
Yeah, you know what I think the takeaway or the take home, you could say, that maintains, stays top of mind for me, is although we've gone through these challenges and we've had these physical barriers and physical distance, we've also seen a much more human side of people, the people that we connect and work with. We've seen a much more authentic version of many of ourselves and our clients, whether that means a dog running into the room and jumping onto a desk or a chair,
or a cat,
or a cat walking across the desk, or managing family responsibilities and kids who need to be in school at the same time, school, being homeschooled or virtual school. And so I think what this means is it offers a lesson in just a reminder that we're all human, and in our communications and in our approach, we have the opportunity and really the responsibility to communicate authentically and to be authentic in who we are and who we represent, and also to pull that through and integrate kind of that thinking into what we say and what we do externally as well, whether that be from a brand perspective, social media, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and it definitely is an opportunity to kind of take a step back and think about, really what's important, not only regard to personal lives, but professionally, and kind of the objectives and the goals we have. So that would be kind of my one takeaway, is that, it's not necessarily a limiting factor. One anecdote that comes to mind is from the biotech industry in the United States. There have been more investments from venture capital. There's been more investment ever in biotech in the United States just this half of the year. And that's reflected a shift from, people in ties and very fancy suits in boardrooms, face-to-face in very formal meetings, to people wearing, hoodies, and sweatshirts, doing deals over Zoom. I think that's that personal aspect in how it comes to life in our work days. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think keeping that empathy and that human aspect and human angle to things will help us get through the challenges of the coming months, or the ongoing challenges with the pandemic.
Andrew, thank you so much. Cool message. Thank you so much for this great conversation. We probably would be here at least half an hour more or something. But thank you so much for participating, for your views. Muito obrigado a todos aqueles que nos estiveram a ver. Este é o penúltimo Coffee Break Digital antes de irmos de férias. Para a semana teremos o último, com a participação, em princípio, de toda a equipa que esteve na gênese deste projeto, para falarmos um bocadinho sobre a comunicação e as tendências da comunicação, by Guess What. Mais uma vez, muito obrigado a todos, agradecemos, fiquem bem, fiquem em segurança. Thank you, and see you in the next annual meeting, if we can, personally.
Absolutely. Look forward to that opportunity, George. Thank you again. Obrigado a todos.